Right.
ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतानः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. Dear friends, we are reading the Sambandha Bhashya, that is the introductory commentary for this third chapter, that is Karma Yoga. So we are seeing that Shankaracharya, whenever it comes to excessive ritualism of this Mimamsakas, he takes it as a duty to denounce this excessive ritualism, and then okay, if you want to follow ritualism, you follow, but don't say that you are going to combine it along with jnana. So this jnana karma samuchaya, this combination is something which is incompatible, because karma, the very nature of karma is different, the very nature of jnana is different. So this is what we have seen both in the beginning of the second chapter under the 10th Ashocyan Anvasochastvam. There again there was a Sambandha Bhashya. In that Bhashya also the same denunciation of this jnana karma samuchaya, this combination of this jnana and karma, it is that is something which is not possible. So that was the combination was denounced there also. Here again in this introduction, Shankaracharya is doing the same thing, and we have seen various arguments to and fro. The Purvapaksha has advanced some arguments, and then Shankaracharya has replied to all those things. He has also anticipated some Purvapaksha, and then he gave answers to those things. And we were reading this line because we just the last conclusion was that the Gruhastha is burdened with all these Shrauta karmas and Smartha karmas. That is something ridiculous for any intelligent man to agree, for any wise man to accept, because you are saying the sannyasi is exempted from this nitya karmas, but a Gruhastha is not exempted from this, not nitya karmas, Shrauta karmas, but a Gruhastha is not exempted. So that is something a ridiculous proposition. So we are in that line. Atha Gruhastasyaiva.
This we have already read, sir.
We read this line.
Yeah,
Okay. We are in this line. Sarvopanishatsu Itihasa Purana Yoga Shastreshu cha Jnanangatvena Mumukshoho Sarva Karma Sannyasa Vidhanat Ashrama Vikalpa Samuchaya Vidhanacha Shruti Smrutyoho. So Shankaracharya is now concluding that in all the Upanishads, Sarvopanishads, not only Upanishads, Itihasa, Purana, Puraneshu api. Itihasa, in Itihasa I told you what is Itihasa, I told what is Purana also. Itihasa, Purana and also Yoga Shastra. In all these things, take any scripture, wherever you see, in all these things, for a mumukshu means for a mumukshu, jnanangatvena sarva karma sannyasa vihitaha. That is jnanangatvena, as part and parcel of jnana, not a sadhana to jnana. Sadhana is something which I use for some time and throw it away. But then jnana anga, it is part and parcel, it is an important component of jnana. A sannyasi is a jnani is a sannyasi. So that is the thing, jnana angatvena. That is something, a necessary component of jnana. Sannyasa is a necessary component of jnana. In that manner, it has been decided. And what do Mimamsakas say? Of course, Mimamsaka argument Shankaracharya is not quoting here, but it is quoted in Anandagiri Vyakhya. This Anandagiri is slightly elaborating. Natu nakalu anadhikutanam andhadinam sannyasah. Mimamsaka's contention is that only those physically handicapped people, like blind, lame, deaf, all these type of people, those who cannot do karmas, they can take up sannyasa. So that is their argument. Whereas Shankaracharya says it is not as though the lame and physically handicapped people have to do this, have to take up sannyasa, but a person who has real vairagya, A person who has real dispassion, a real understanding of the reality of things, only such man, he takes up sannyasa, and not a blind man or a deaf man. So that is Shankaracharya's argument. Sarvakarma sannyasa vidhanat ashrama vikalpa samuchaya vidhanacha shruti smrutyoho. Shruti smrutyoho means in the shrutis and smrutis. We know what is a shruti and what is a smruti. Shruti smrutyoho is saptami vibhakti. In shrutis and smrutis, what is mentioned? Ashrama vikalpa samuchaya vidhanacha. Two things are mentioned. Ashrama vikalpa is mentioned, samuchaya is mentioned. He is using the word samuchaya. You carefully listen to this. Ashrama vikalpa. Ashrama vikalpa is the differentiation in ashrama. Demarcate this ashrama from that ashrama. I will explain. That is, he is giving Anandagiri is giving a note. Ashrama vikalpa means, in brahmacharyam samapya gruhi bhavet. That is, after completing brahmacharya, you become a gruhastha. Then gruhi gruhat vani bhutva pravrajet. Gruhat, that is from this gruhastha vani bhutva, that is, you go to vanaprastha ashrama. Vanaprastha is leaving this household activities and then going to some sort of secluded place. So in olden days they used to go to some forest. Forest means maybe probably they had some sort of tapovana type of thing. Forest means not totally the jungle, cared for jungle. It is something, some sort of tapovana or something like that. So like all these rishis, munis who used to dwell in the forest, they used to have a small huts. Their daily basic needs were there. So that is vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is Vana. Vanam is forest. In Sanskrit, Vana is forest. Something to do with Vanam is Vana. Vana Prastha is going towards the forest, moving towards the forest. That is Vana Prastha. That is going to a secluded place. Maybe nowadays we can say, maybe the modern equivalent, maybe going to some sort of farmhouse and staying there. And then maybe some sort of old age home. Maybe that is the modern equivalent of some Vana Prastha, leaving aside all the brisk day-to-day worldly activities like making money and then earning further and further. So leaving all these things, you live a contented life. Not only living a contented life, but contemplate on Brahman. So that is important. That brahmachari is a fellow who contemplates on Brahman. Gruhastha, he has to support all other ashramas. Gruhastha is the mainstay. He is the main support for a brahmachari. He is the main support for a sannyasi also. So Vanaprastha is a fellow who is independently staying. He is there with family. He has not renounced. He is not a sannyasi. But then he is engaged in that contemplation of Brahma. So this has been the ashrama. Ashrama vikalpa is the differentiation in ashramas. You graduate from one thing to another thing to another thing and another thing to another thing. So this is called a krama samuchaya. Krama means in a phased manner. Krama samuchaya is accepted by the Vedantins, but not a simultaneous samuchaya. You see the difference. The word samuchaya is there. Ashrama vikalpa samuchaya vidhanacha shruti smrutyoho. Anandagiri has explained. Brahmacharyam samapya gruhi bhavet gruhad vani bhutva pravrajyet iti yadiva itaratha brahmacharyadeva pravrajyet. Otherwise, itaratha means otherwise, you can renounce even from the status of a brahmachari state, even before getting into grahastha. As a brahmachari, because he is already well versed in the Vedas, he is well versed in the Upanishads, he knows that what is truth and what is not truth. So what is reality and what is not. So that person, he is entitled to take up sannyasa. Vikalpa. This is called the vikalpa. So this ashrama vikalpa, and in that vikalpa this samuchaya is shown. That is the krama samuchaya is shown. Krama samuchaya, you understood? From one thing you graduate, you do karma first, and then from karma you slowly graduate to some little bit of contemplation, mode of contemplation, that is vanaprastha. From there you totally renounce. So this sort of krama samuchaya, a phased manner, this sort of combination of jnana and karma is possible, but not simultaneous samuchaya. You can't say you are a gruhastha, you are doing this so and so yaga and yajna or some day, and then you cannot say that is something different, my jnana path is different. It is not so, because that yajna is going to give you some result. Definitely it is going to give you some result. So that karma and this thing at the same time, in the same person, they are incompatible. They can be in two different persons at the same time. I can be a sannyasi, you can be a gruhastha, or vice versa. Or I can be a gruhastha some 10 years ago, now I cease to be a gruhastha and now I can take up sannyasa. So, but then it cannot be simultaneously existing in one man at the same time. You follow this? That is it. So, ashrama vikalpa samuchaya vidhanacha shruti smrityoho. This line we have to carefully understand. Then, having heard this word samuchaya, the Purvapakshi is happy. Wow, you yourself are admitting that there is some samuchaya. Then he says, Purvapaksha line is there, Siddhaha tarhi, Siddhas tarhi sarvashraminam, Jnanakarmanos samuchayaha. Now, okay, you yourself are agreeing that there is something called samuchaya. From your mouth only that word has come out. That samuchaya word has come out from your mouth. So, siddhaha tarhi. Siddhaha means it is something which is proved. It is established. Siddha is something which is established. So, siddhaha tarhi. Sarvakarminam, sarvashraminam. For all these ashramas, jnana karma samuchaya is something which you have accepted. Then this man Siddhanti says, no my dear, na. Let us read. Na mumukshoho sarva karma sannyasa vidhanat. Okay, for a mumukshu, na, it is not so my dear. Mumukshoho, that is for a mumukshu, for a seeker, sarva karma sannyasa vidhanat. It is sarva karma sannyasa which is prescribed. Sarva karma sannyasa vidhanat means sarva karma sannyasa vihitaha, that is what is prescribed. Because of that reason, what you say, your contention, your exaltation, your happiness that samuchaya has been sanctioned, it is unwarranted, don't be happy. So then he is explaining, putraishanayascha, vittaishanayascha, lokaishanayascha, vyuthaya, atha bhikshacharyam charanti. Bhikshacharyam charanti. Okay, this is from this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This is the third adhyaya, fifth Brahmana, the first mantra. That is Yajnavalkya. He is answering a person called Kahola. There is a discussion. In olden days, as we know, there used to be the Shastra Charchas. Shastra Charchas means, say somebody, a Mimamsaka will be there, a Bauddha will be there, a Jaina will be there, some Tarkika will be there, a Mimamsaka will be there, a Vedanti will be there. So all these people, they used to be there in the same king's court. And then there used to be a discussion on what is reality and what is truth and what not. So each man would present his own argument. So then okay, there is, depending on their argumentative skill and their own knowledge of the Siddhanta and their own firmness in the Siddhanta and their own capacity to contemplate on issues. So there used to be some winning, losing, etc. So that is how our country had a continuous dialogue with all types of people. Not like today where there is absolutely no freedom of speech. One man can say, oh, freedom of speech can be there for somebody who is denouncing Hindu gods and goddesses. But then our people, we don't engage them in proper talk. We don't engage them in proper discussion. So that is the unfortunate thing. Because we ourselves, we do not read. So anyway, Putraishanayascha, Vuttaishanayascha, in that I told this because this is a discussion in King Janaka's court between Yajnavalkya and Kahola. Yajnavalkya goes to Janaka's court. Many scholars are also there in Janaka's court. Some Kahola, some lady Gargi, and so many people are there. So all those people, they put various questions. They have a discussion with this Yajnavalkya on what is the truth, what is absolute reality. So that is in that context that sloka comes. Then Putraishanayascha Vittaishana. We know that there are three Yashanas. I have explained earlier also. Putraishana, that is a desire for children. What for? That is for this Lokajaya. Lokajaya, a person is supposed to say conquer three worlds. Conquer in the sense not physically conquer. Conquer in the sense he has to leave this world in a proper shape, and then he has to go to Pitruloka, and then from Pitruloka he has to go to Swargaloka. That is the normal progress for a Gruhastha as contemplated by this, Mimamsakas and in religion, let us say, as per the ritualists, that is what is contemplated. He has to get over this Pitruloka, for this Loka. This Loka can be got over only by having a progeny, Putra. By having a Putra, that putra is supposed to deliver you from this, this loka, and then your bondage with this loka will be over, so that your son will continue the same sort of their worship, ritual and all these things, so that as a Pitru Devata, you will be getting some Pitru Pindodakas and all those things from these putras. So that is how putra is required. Then Vittaishana. Vitta is money. Money is for what? For doing some Punya Karyas. Through these Punya Karyas, you attain this Pitruloka, and then you may attain some Devaloka also if you do some Upasana and things like that. There are two things which can be attained by this Vittam. Vittam is Dhanam, money. Money is required, a lot of money is required for doing various types of karmas. So Putraishana is one, desire for children, that is Putra, and desire for money. These two things are for what? Lokaishana. For Loka. What is this Loka? Loka is some Devaloka, some other Swargaloka, some other Shiva Loka, some other Vishnu Loka, and various types of Lokas. Loka, it does not mean not this world. We are not talking about this world. We are talking about these worlds which are promised in religion. In various religions. All religions promise some heaven, some type of heaven. So all these lokas. In fact, some time ago in Gita Bhashya, in the same Gita Bhashya or somewhere, I told the story of this Parashurama. Parashurama, when he encounters Lord Rama, there is in that immediately after the marriage of Rama and Sita, you know the episode where Parashurama goes, so he is angry, right? You have broken this Shivadhanu. I have got this Vaishnavadhanu which has been given to me by Lord Vishnu himself. You take this, you try to fix that string. So then Lord Rama, he immediately takes it and very easily puts that string on the bow. You know that. And then he puts an arrow also. And once you put you cock that bow and put an arrow, you have to jolly well shoot. So then he asks, "Oh Mahatma, what should I do now? You have challenged me to do this. I have taken this bow, I have cocked it, and I have also put an arrow. Then what to do? What should I do with this? You tell me what to hit. I don't want to physically harm you." Then Parashurama, I don't know, I am not very sure, I don't recollect whether Parashurama gives the option or Lord Rama himself decides. He hits the lokas which have been so far attained by Parashurama. All these lokas, you have to take it in a metaphorical way. All these lokas, we know that they are in the realm of Ajnana only. We know that. All these loka, it is something which is different from Brahma, which are there within that huge Brahma consciousness only. All Brahma consciousness is something supreme, and all these lokas are something it is inferior. If you are fond of this loka or that loka, it only means that you do not know the reality. You have not known Brahman. So in other words, Lord Rama removed or erased his ignorance. We can say Lord Rama, by hitting at the lokas which have been earned by Parashurama through various yajnas and so many punya karyas. So that when he hits all those lokas means, what does it mean? Metaphorically it means that he enabled him to see this Brahma. He enabled him to see the reality. So that is how we have to take that. So like that, Lokaishana is something which is there for a ritualist, which is very strong in a ritualist. For a Mimamsaka, so going to this loka or that loka, then this Swarga will come, and then some chariot will just come down at when your body falls. So all these things, even in my childhood, I used to listen to some stories like this. When my grandfathers, etc., they used to say that, at the time of death, some chariot will come, only some good people will be able to see. This thing was there. Even in my childhood, I have listened. So you can imagine what sort of strong, belief must have been there during Shankaracharya's time. So Putraishanayascha Vyuthaya. Vyuthanam is rising above, getting up. How can you rise above? Rising above means you see the futility of these things. You rise above a thing only when you see the futility of a thing. If you don't see the futility of a thing, you are busy with that activity. You go to some pub and then you enjoy. You keep on seeing all movies on the very first day. Then like that. Just some silly examples have come to my mind. But anyway, Vyuthanam, rising above that means when you realize that this is something silly, this is something meaningless, then you stop it. You rise above it. That is, Vyuthanam involves some little bit of contemplation, some little bit of knowledge, some little bit of awareness about what is real and what is unreal. So only then you will be able to rise above above these things, above this Lokaishana. In fact, this Lokaishana is the Sadhya Eshana. That is the Sadhyam. The sadhanas are Putra, Putreshana and what is this Vittaishana. So in fact, Shankaracharya in Bruhadaranyaka Bhashyam, he makes a distinction between Sadhyaishana and Sadhanaishana. He uses these words. This Loka is a Sadhya. This Putra and Vitta are Sadhanas. So from all these things, a wise man or a jnani has to rise above. So that is the meaning here. Atha vyuthaya, atha bhikshacharyam charanti. This bhikshacharyam is something which is prescribed for a sannyasi. He is not supposed to waste his time cooking his food, etc. He is supposed to live on whatever bhiksha comes. And bhikshacharya is also a indirect way of promoting dharma in society. If you are offering food to a sannyasi, it means that it is say, putting you on a dharmic path. It is not as though this man will go hungry and die or anything like that. It is putting it is giving an opportunity for a householder. It is giving an opportunity for a gruhastha to do some dharmic deed by giving some food to a sannyasi. So that is the picture. So that is how that institution of bhikshacharya is built up. Then bhikshacharyam charanti. Next line is tasmat sannyasam yesham tapasam atirikta mahuhu. Yesham tapasam means of all these tapas, of all these pious activities, of all these disciplines, of all these austerities, let us say, of all these pure, disciplines, self-discipline, and then yama, niyama, and whatnot, and then all our austerities, piety, ahimsa, satyam, akrodham, dhanam, shaucham, and whatnot. Of all these things, sannyasam, yesham tapasam, of all these austerities, sannyasam atirikta mahuhu. Sannyasa is told to be supreme. Atirikta is, it excels. It excels all. All other austerities on one side, sannyasa is on another side. You may be saying, I am practicing ahimsa, I am doing dhanam, I am doing this, that, etc. Of all these things, sannyasa excels all these things because he has just given up all these things. He is just risen above. He has just risen above all these things. So that is the meaning here. This is from one Upanishad, Mahanarayana Upanishad. Then next line, Nyasa eva atyarechayat. Is also the same meaning. Nyasa and sannyasa are one and the same. Some is an upasarga, nyasa. Nyasa is renunciation. That is the meaning of nyasa. There are two meanings for nyasa. Nyasam is keeping something in a particular place. That is nyasam. You deposit something in a particular place, that is called nyasam. I deposit my money in a bank. So that is a nyasam, where I have an authority to claim and take it at any time. So that is one meaning. The meaning sampurvaka nyasa sabdasya tyagartha, somewhere we got in this bhashyam only. Sampurvaka nyasa sabdasya tyagartha. That is, when this upasarga sam comes prior to this word nyasa, the meaning is tyaga, that is giving up, renunciation. So that is the meaning. So this nyasa eva atyarechayat means atyarechayat is the same line what earlier told atirikta. It has excelled. Nyasa eva atyarechayat is nyasa has excelled. Sannyasa is something which has excelled. Then next line, na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagenaike amrutatva manashuhu. This is one famous shloka which you hear whenever some Swamiji comes. So there is a welcome, there is a Purna Kumbha given, and along with the Purna Kumbha there is this saying, na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagena ike amrutatva manashuhu. So that shloka is told, that mantra is from Mahanarayana Upanishad. It starts with there is a much longer, about 3-4 mantras are there. In between this comes na karmana. Na prajaya, it is not by karma. Na karmana means not by karma. Karma means action, any ritual, let us say. Na karmana. Na prajaya. Praja means progeny. Praja and progeny are related. Progeny means children. So he is talking about the same Vitteshana and Putreshana. Na karmana means that Vitteshana. Only when Vitta money is there, you do karma. Then Putra, that is referring to na prajaya, not by karmas, not by prajaya, na dhanena, not by money. Tyagena ike amrutatva manashuhu. Tyagena plus eke. That is, eke means some people. Who are those some people? Some wise people. Some wise people, some jnanis. Tyagena eke amrutatvam anashuhu. Eke, some people. Tyagena, by renunciation. Amrutatvam means immortality. Anashuhu means they obtained, they attained, let us say. They attained or achieved. So some wise people, eke, tyagena plus eke, tyagena eke, some wise people, by renunciation only, they attained that immortality. What is that immortality? In Vedanta, this ajnana is compared to mrityu. Ajnanam vai mrityuhu. There is a Upanishadic statement. This ajnana is what is called mrityu. Why? We have heard so much of Bhashyam, so we should be able to recall that ajnana is something which is responsible for this adhyaropa. That is for attributing something on something else. Attributing on this Shuddha Chaitanya, this qualities like I am a body, I am this, I am that, I belong to this caste and I have this identity, all this identity, description of identity, it is something which is superimposed on Shuddha Chaitanya. And this is all due to ajnana. And because of this superimposition, I am feeling that I am there is a sthula body, there is a gross body, there is a subtle body, there is a karana sarira. And this separation of this sthula sharira, the separation of this karana sharira from sthula sharira is what is called death. What is death actually? This sthula sharira or gross body is here itself. The linga sharira, that is the subtle body, leaves. And then the subtle body leaves and it is supposed to go into another body. So the separation of this gross body and the subtle body is what is called death. So we are in this samsara. So this samsara is what? This is a mrityu only. You are just dying and again reborn, again dying and again reborn. So ajnanam vai mrityuhu. When you once get rid of this ajnana, then there is no question of physical body, there is no question of subtle body. You are one with that Shuddha Chaitanya. So that is the idea, that is the message of the Vedanta. Then tyagena ike amrutatvam anashu. Amrutatvam means immortality. Amrutatvam is where that is state of ignorance has disappeared. Mrutatvam is that ajnana. Ajnana vai mrityuhu. Amrutatvam is where that state of mortality is not there. That immortality. That is it. Amrutatvam anashuhu they attained. Iticha. Next line. Brahmacharyadeva pravrajet.
Brahmacharyadeva pravrajet.
Ityadyaha shrutayaha.
Ityadyaha shrutayaha.
Same thing. Brahmacharyadeva. That is right from this stage of brahmacharya, right from the stage of that Gurukula Vasa, then one can pravrajet, one can become a sannyasi, one can renounce and go to that last stage. You can skip the intermediate stages, that is Grihastha and Vanaprastha you can skip, and right from your school days means Gurukula. I am not talking about our schools. Our schools they can only go to IITs and engineering colleges. But in those days, Gurukulas, where this 80-year-old boy, when he was Upanita, when the Upanayana was done, he used to go to a guru. There he used to study the Vedas for about 80 years or so. Then again he used to read the Upanishads, the entire Upanishads he used to read. He used to know what is Brahma Vidya. Then thereafter, then he used to know about this Dharma. Dharma means this Smrutis, this Loka Vyavahara. He has to know something about Loka Vyavahara. He can't be a total, he should not be staying in some sort of imaginative world. So this is Smruti, etc., some sort of education in Smruti was there. Then he used to come to Grihastha. So here this says, right from that stage, you can skip this Grihastha and Vanaprastha and you can renounce. So that is another option given to a person. So it only shows what type of society we had. That is, renunciation was supposed to be the highest thing. Not acquisition, not conquering people and not acquisition. So this type of approach was there in the whole society. So probably this also influenced our kings to some extent. So that is why probably India was attacked so many times by so many people, and then we became the victims also. It is okay. But that is how this society, we have never been a sort of aggressive or violent society. We have always been accommodating, we have always been renunciation has been our first option, whether you take Buddha or whether you take Patanjali, whether you take anybody. So anyway, Tyaja dharmam adharmam cha
त्यज धर्मम अधर्मं च
ubhe satyanrute tyaja
उभे सत्यानुते त्यज
ubhe satyanrute tyaktva
उभे सत्यानुते त्यक्त्वा
yena tyajasi tat tyaja.
येन त्यजसि तत्यज.
This is a beautiful sloka from Shanti Parva of Mahabharatam. Mahabharata Shanti Parva. Shanti Parva is a very big parva. We know that there are 18 parvas in Mahabharata. Among the 18 parvas, there are some small parvas where this description of war, they are small parvas. Bhishma Parva, Drona Parva, Karna Parva, Shalya Parva, Saukti, all those things are small parvas. Then in the end also small parvas are there. This Shanti and Anushasana Parva, these two parvas are very huge. Similarly, Udyoga Parva is quite big. Adi Parva is also fairly big. The Adi Parva is in the beginning where these Kauravas and Pandavas, they grow up and how the jealousy and envy, it grows between them. All that thing is described in the Adi Parva. Then Sabha Parva is where they play dice and then these Pandavas, they lose their kingdom. Then Aranya Parva, that is called Vana Parva. Then after that Virata Parva is there. Vana Parva is also fairly big, where lot many sages come. Lot many sages and saints, they come. And then they tell these Pandavas about how various kings, in fact this is called Itihasa because it contains the history of so many types of kings, so many kings. There is a story of Nala Chakravarti, there is a story of Vishwamitra, there is a story of Sri Rama himself. So all these stories are related to these people to tell them, yes, their life involves so many say ups and downs. So you are not the only people who are not the only people who suffered in life. You see, Lord Rama suffered like this, Harishchandra suffered like this, Nala Chakravarti suffered like this, so and so Yayati suffered like this. So all these stories are told to them basically to make them mature. So this is again teaching them the basic dharmic way of life, teaching them Nishkama Karma. So all these sages used to come and tell. That is Vanaparva. So again, after all this war is over, then Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva come, which are again fairly huge things, where lot of Raja Dharma is told, then Sannyasi, the Moksha Dharma is told. Raja Dharma, Bhishma tells this Dharmaraja, all the Raja Dharmas, the conduct of a king, how a king should be, how a king should rule, all those things are there mentioned. Then Moksha Dharma, again, that is again told in a very elaborate manner. So these two parvas are very important from the point of view of our Siddhanta, our philosophy, basic philosophy. So in this shloka occurs in Shanti Parva. It is like this: Tyaja dharmam adharmancha. You reject. Tyaja means tyaga. Tyaja is the dhatu. Tyaga is the noun. Tyaja means you leave, you renounce. Tyaja dharmam adharmam cha. It is a paradoxical thing. Okay, somebody will say you don't do evil. Then here it says don't do good also. Because this dharmam also is binding. Dharmam is supposed to give you that punyam. Dharmam will give you, any good deed gives you that some punyam. And then and that punyam again is binding. That punyam will again lead you to another birth. If you are a mumukshu, this is told to a mumukshu. This is told to a person who actually is interested in moksha. This is not told to a common man. This is not told to somebody who is a householder. This is not told to somebody who wants to again have a rebirth and he wants to have some good birth and he wants to go to Sarga and things like that. This is given as an ideal. The ideal is that a person has to renounce. Renounce what? Renounce both good and evil. Tyaja dharmam adharmancha, because they are both are binding. Then Ubhe Satyanrute Tyaja. This Satya and Anruta, this truth and untruth, both you renounce. And Ubhe Satyanrute Tyaktva, having abandoned this Satya and Anruta, having abandoned or having renounced, not abandoned, having renounced this Satya and Amruta, then yena tyajasi tat tyaja. That is, you renounce that by which you have renounced the earlier things. What does it mean? You are renouncing something by what? You are renouncing something by thinking, by process of mind. So the mind is the instrument which rejects dharma. Mind is the instrument which rejects adharma. Mind is the instrument which rejects truth and which rejects untruth. And this is the instrument. Then ultimately this line says you renounce that mind also. What is meant by that? This mind is something, what is that ahankara, that feeling of I. This we know that manas is having four components: manas, buddhi, chittam and ahankara. This ahankara, mano buddhi ahankara chittaninaham. Shankaracharya's famous line is there, that ahankara, that I feeling. So long as that I feeling is there, this man will be in a state of highly spiritual pride rather. There is a technical word also for that, it is called hubris. Hubris, hubris is the spiritual pride or this spiritual pride is called hubris. So he will be in a state of hubris, thinking that yes, I am such a dharmika, I have given up this, I have given up that, I have given up dharma, I have given up adharma, I am in a state of enlightenment. So long as you feel that I, the Kena Upanishad again says, when somebody says I am enlightened, certainly he is not enlightened. So that is what the Upanishad says. When I say, if I say I am enlightened, certainly you can take it that I am not enlightened, because that feeling of I is very much there in me. So like that, Ubhe satyanrute tyaktva, having abandoned, having rejected, renounced, not abandoned. Abandon is leaving, is not a correct word. Having renounced the satya and anruta, dharma and adharma, you also renounce the instrument by which you have renounced the earlier things. The instrument is that mind. That is the ego. Even that ego has to go, and one has to remain in such a egoless state, which means that one remains as a Shuddha Chaitanya only. When that ahankara, that I is removed, eradicated, what else remains? You remain as Shuddha Chaitanya only. That feeling of aham goes, what remains is Chaitanya only. That is the meaning here. Then, is it okay?
Yes.
Next line, samsarameva nissaram
Samsarameva nissaram
društva sara didrukshaya
Društva sara didrukshaya
pravrajantyakruto
Pravrajantyakruto
param vairagyamashritah.
Param vairagyamashritah.
This sloka is where is it from? What does your book say?
Narada Pari.
Narada Pari Upanishad. This book does not say where it is from. This samsarameva nissaram društva sara didrukshaya pravrajanti akrutodvaha param vairagyamashritah. So he is talking about one set of people, akrutodvaha. The this word is there in the second line of the shloka. Akrutodvaha. Udvaha means marriage. Udvaha is the same thing as marriage. Vivaha. We know what is vivaha. Vivaha is marriage. Vivaha is the same as udvaha, the same word, vaha. Ut plus vaha is udvaha. Vi plus vaha is vivaha. Udvaha is same as marriage. So, krutodvaha is somebody who has married. Akrutodvaha means one who has not married. So, this akrutodvaha, what do they do? Pravrajanti akrutodvaha. Pravrajanti means they renounce. This appear people without getting married, without going into that grihastha ashrama, they renounce. Then why? Param vairagyam ashritaha. Having taken up, ashritaha means having followed, having taken up or adopting this param vairagyam, that supreme sense of renunciation. Param, you know what is supreme. Param is supreme. Then vairagyam, vigataha ragaha, viragaha. That is, raga is attachment. One who has no attachment is a viragi. Ragi and viragi, these two are different words. Ragi is one who has an attachment. Viragi is vigataha ragaha, yasmatsa viragi. So the viragasya bhavaha vairagyam. Vairagyam is the state of that dispassion, where total lack of attachment. So param vairagyam ashritaha, having adopted that path of dispassion. So these people, they do not marry, and then come to the first line, samsarameva nissaram društva. Samsarameva nissaram drishtva. Having seen or having perceived or having understood. Drishtva is darshanam. From the word darshanam only. Darshanam can mean two things. Physically seeing and then having a proper understanding. Samsaram nissaram drishtva means having understood this samsara as something which is nissaram, which is something worthless or meaningless. The meaningless samsara. Having realized that Sara didrukshaya. Sara didrukshaya means with a desire to see what exactly is the meaning of it. Saram is, you know what is the saram? Saram is essence. That means essence means the truth. What is the truth behind this? What we see is so meaningless. Then what is the truth? So Sara didrukshaya, then if you want to know the saram, you can't again be in the same flow only. This samsara is a huge flow, something like a river. If you are in the same flow, you cannot realize. So that flow involves marriage, the flow involves children, flow involves some job, flow involves this, that and all, so many trappings. So all this thing is a flow. So you have to come out of that flow to the bank and then see what is this. When you are in the middle of the river, you cannot see. You have to come on to the bank and then see what exactly is going on in the river. So Sara didrukshaya. Didruksha means drashtumiksha, the desire to know, the desire to see. So with that desire to see, these people, they don't get into that pravaha. They don't get into that samsara pravaha. They don't get into that flow of this river. And then they come out and then they do not marry. And then they do vairagyam ashritaha. With that sense of renunciation, they see. Then they seek the meaning of life. So that is the meaning here. Then Sara didrukshaya vairagyam ashritaha iti Bruhaspatihi. This is somewhere, some Bruhaspati seems to have told his son Kacha. Somewhere in Mahabharata, Bruhaspati seems to have so told his son Kacha. Then next line, Karmana badhyate jantuhu.
Karmana badhyate jantuhu.
Vidyaya cha vimuchyate.
Vidyaya cha vimuchyate.
Tasmat karma na kurvanti.
Tasmat karma na kurvanti.
Karma na kurvanti.
Karma na kurvanti.
Yatayaha paradarshinaha.
Yatayaha paradarshinaha.
Iti shukanushāsanam.
Iti shukanushāsanam.
Shuka anushasanam.
Shuka anushāsanam.
Okay. Karmana badhyate jantuhu. This we know by this time, having seen so much of bhashyam, we know that karma is something which is binding. Jantu means not animal. Jantu means anything which is born. Jantu means we are all jantus only. Anything which is born is a jantu. Jani. Jani means puttuka. That is birth. Anything which is having a birth is jantu. Anything which is born. So, karmana badhyate jantuhu. Anything which is born, the human being, let us say here, he is bound by karma. Vidyaya cha vimuchyate. Vidya is what? Vidya is real knowledge. That is renunciation, not renunciation, brahmajnana. Brahmajnana is something which is called Vidya. In the context of Vedanta, Vidya means Brahmajnana. So, Vidyaya cha vimuchyate. Vidya is something which is going to remove all the mental cobwebs, all those things which are there, all the accumulated dust which is there in the mind, all those things, all those false impressions and all those false appellations and all those things, they are eradicated by this Brahma Vidya. So, that is the meaning. Vidyaya cha vimuchyate tasmat karma na kurvanti yatayaha paradarshinaha. Tasmat karma na kurvanti yatayaha. Yatayaha is the plural of yati. Yati is a sannyasi. Yatayaha is plural. Yatayaha kim kurvanti? Karma na kurvanti. They do not engage themselves in action. They do not engage themselves in all these rituals and this karma kanda, this yajna, yaga and whatnot. Yatayaha, what type of yatayaha are they? Paradarshinaha. Paradarshi means one who sees beyond. Param is, suppose there is a river or some sea. Over and above the sea I see, beyond the sea I see something, or beyond the river I see. That param is the shore, the end. Param is the end. So I am seeing beyond that thing, beyond that horizon. Beyond the horizon I am able to see what is there. So he is called a paradarshi. Param drashtum shilam yasya saha paradarshi. One who can see beyond. Paradarshinaha is the plural of paradarshi. One who can see beyond. One who can see the real meaning of life. He is one. He is a yati. So what is he doing? He is not engaging himself in all these rituals which are of binding nature. So that is the meaning. Iti Shuka Anushasanam. Shuka Anushasanam is this Shuka. Shuka is again, we know the sage Shuka, who is son of Vyasa. We don't know where exactly it is. The reference is it mentioned in your book?
Shanti Varma in 240.
Shuka Anushasanam.
No,
It
that's
is,
not.
it's not mentioned. Okay, Shuka Anushasanam in my book also it's not there. Anyway, Iha Picha
Iha picha
Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasya
sarvakarmani manasa samyasya
Ityadi.
ityadi.
Iha Apicha. Iha Apicha means in this Grantha also. In this Grantha means in the Gita Shastra also. There is a shloka. Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasyaste Sukham Vashi. What is the shloka reference?
5th adhyaya 13th
5th Adhyaya 13th shloka. Then Ihapi Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasyaste Sukham Vashi. That is the shloka. So that we are going to see. Even not only in all these Shrutis, Smrutis, Puranas and whatnot, it is also mentioned repeatedly in this book also that Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasya. By mind you are renouncing. With the help of the mind you are renouncing all these karmas. Manasa Sanyasya Aste Sukham Vashi. So that is what is described in this book also. Why? Mokshasya cha
mokshasya cha
akaryatvat
akaryatvat
mumukshoho karma anarthakyam.
mumukshoho karma anarthakyam.
Karmanarthakyam.
Karmanarthakyam.
So this is an important statement. You can underline also. Mokshasya cha akaryatvat mumukshoho karma anarthakyam. Karma plus anarthakyam is karmanarthakyam. Mumukshoho, for a mumukshu, for one who is desirous of moksha. Karma anarthakyam. Karma plus anarthakyam is karmanarthakyam. Anarthakyam is the futility. Anarthakam, we also use the word in Telugu. This is all anarthakam. Anarthakam is, it is infructuous, fruitless, futile. So anarthakyam is futility, noun, that is futility. So seeing the futility of all these things, mumukshoho karma anarthakyam. For a mumukshu, for a person who is desirous of moksha, karma is something which is futile. Then why? Mokshasya cha akaryatvat. Moksha is something which is not a karya. Karyam, what is karyam? Anything which is made by some effort is a karya. I take some clay and then make a pot. I take some material and then make this pen. So there is an upadana karana, that is the material cause. There is a nimitta karana, I am the person who is either a potter or a pen maker, I am making this thing, and this is a karya. And for this karya, some plastic is the upadana karana, something else is upadana karana, and I am the nimitta karana, let us say. So moksha is not having any upadana karana, anything nimitta karana or anything. Moksha is not something which is for any karya. There is also something which is created, it can also be destroyed. Moksha is a nitya thing. Moksha is something which is a state of enlightenment. There is no question of destruction or nasha in that. And that is not something which has been produced by karma. Karma can only give you a swarga. You know, swarga and all these things, they are all karyas. You perform some yajna and then you do some good deed, you go to heaven. Whether it is an our religion or any other religion, whether it is a Western religion or Indian religion, whatever it is, you do some good deed and then you go to heaven. All religions, they say that you do this good deed and you go to heaven. Then what is the status of heaven? Heaven is a karya. And then you stay in that heaven so long as your accumulated punya, your bank balance, something like bank balance or visa, so long as it remains. And once the visa is over, you are sent back, you are flown back rather. So something like that, you are thrown back. I also told you the story of that Indradimna, the king Indradimna some time ago, who fights with all these gods. I have done so much punya on this world, so I have to stay for a longer time in heaven. So he fights. So anyway, I will not repeat that story. I told the story of that Indradimna from Mahabharata. So like that, Swarga is what? Swarga is a karya. It is something which has been produced by some karma. Whatever is produced by karma is a karya. So karyam is something, it has got some qualities. Somewhere earlier also we saw, karyam has utpadyam, vikaryam, not here, it is in Ishavasya Bhashya. Ishavasya Bhashya we saw, Any karyam has something to do with utpadyam. It can be produced, it can be destroyed, it can be vikaryam, it can be modified. I can modify this pen. So all these things happen in the case of a karya. But moksha is not a karya. Moksha is not something like that. Moksha is a state where you get rid of all these things. You get rid of all your wrong impressions about yourself. You get rid of all these superimpositions. So that is the stage. So it is not a karya. It is only a question of negating. It is only a question of throwing away. Not a question of acquiring. It is not a question of doing something. It is a question of understanding. It is a question of having a proper vision. So that is moksha. You follow? So this word we have to understand. Moksha is akaryam. Moksha akaryam. That thing we have to understand. Then mokshasya akaryastvat means because moksha is not a karyam. Moksha is not something like swarga, which is a karya. Heaven is something which is achieved by you. You have got a right to go there. But moksha is not like that. Moksha is not a karya. This has to be achieved in a different way. This has to be achieved by jnana only, by removing all false perceptions. So that is a different thing. So it is not a karyam in the other sense of the word. You follow this?
Yes.
Mokshasya akaryatvat mumukshoho karma anarthakyam. The futility of karma is shown here. Karma anarthakyam for all these karmas are either not necessary, we can't say infructuous. Futility is a better word. Then the Purvapaksha switches over to another argument. This Purvapaksha again is a very relentless arguer. So he says, okay, he has told about ashrama vikalpam and whatnot. He is again coming to nitya karmas. So the argument here is about nitya karmas. We know that there are three different types of karmas. One is a nitya karma. We have still time. Okay, nitya karma. Then what is it? Naimittika karma and kamya karma. I need not repeat. Nitya karma is something which one has to do essentially. Naimittika is something where there is a nimitta. There is a putra janma. That is a nimitta. That is an occasion. So these are all occasional rituals. That is called Naimittika karma is an occasional ritual where there is a nimittam. The putra janma. Then there is a vivaha. Or somebody for this son you do this upanayanam. Or you do this chaulam. That is haircut thing. The first haircut is called chaulam. So like that these are all various rituals. In English we call them this rites of passage. So these things are also essential. Those Naimittika karmas. Then the third stage is kamya karma. Kamya is in addition to what you have some additional desires. In addition to what God has given you, you have some desires. So that is where comes the question. So nitya and naimittika are something, nitya karmas are something, okay, which have to be compulsorily done by a person for self-discipline. This nitya karma has been told or made compulsory because that is the one thing which gives you self-discipline. Nitya karma basically Sandhya Vandana, Agnihotra. It involves some self-discipline, it involves some social order, some element of social order, because in this Pancha Mahayajnas, Atithi Yajna, Bhuta Yajna means treating the animals in a kind manner, Atithi Yajna, treating the Atithis, treating the guests in a proper manner. So these Pancha Mahayajnas are there, so like that, so that is it. So all these things are made compulsory because as a householder, you have to contribute to the society. You have to play a positive role for social order. So that is why it involves, number one, an element of self-discipline. Upasana, Nitya Karma, Sandhya Vandana is something which is taking you towards that Upasana, which takes you towards the Brahman path. Then this other thing, this Agnihotra, etc., is for social good. Sandhya Vandana is to take you inward, to make you inward looking. So that is one Upasana. The second karma is yajna, agnihotra, etc. They are for social good. So these two things combined, they are prescribed for a man. They are made compulsory for a person. So that he is referring, this Purvapaksha is referring to this. You are saying that sannyasi need not do anything. But what about nitya karmas? Should he not do nitya karma? So that is the question of Purvapaksha. Let us read. Nityani pratyavaya pariharartham अनुष्ठेयानि इति चेत् न असन्यासी विषयत्वात् प्रत्यवाय प्राप्तेः. Okay. Nitya, this Purvapaksha is like this. Nityani, I briefly explained the Purvapaksha. Nityani pratyavaya pariharartham anushtheyani. You have to compulsorily do these nitya karmas in order to avoid the negative effect for not doing them. So there is an injunction. The Mimamsakas, their theory is, if you do not do nitya karma, then you will get some negative fallout. You will get some sin, let us say, to use that word sin loosely. You will get some negative result. You will get some negative fallout out of that. So there is what is called a sin of commission and a sin of omission. So something like that. So this is a sin of omission. So the Mimamsakas say there will be a pratyavaya. Pratyavaya is a negative fallout. In order to remove this negative fallout, in order to obviate that negative fallout, you have to do this nitya karmas. So that is the Purvapaksha. Nityani pratyavaya pariharartham. In order to obviate that pratyavaya, in order to obviate that negative fallout, anustheyani means which have to be performed. Anustheyani means they have to be performed. Iti chet, if you say so, it is not so. Iti chet, na means if you say so, it is not so. So that is the Siddhanti's reply. Asanyasi vishayatvat pratyavaya praptehe. His Siddhanta, very briefly, he is saying this pratyavaya, this question of pratyavaya is only in the case of an asanyasi. This sannyasi, for somebody who is not a sannyasi, what you say applies. But it does not apply to a sannyasi. What you say about pratyavaya prapti and what not, if you do not do nitya karma, you will get a pratyavaya. That is true in the case of an asanyasi. For a grihastha it is true, for a brahmachari it is true, for somebody vanaprastha it is true. A vanaprastha also sitting in his camp, not camp, what is this farmhouse I said, sitting in his farmhouse or old age home, he is supposed to do this nitya karma, he is also supposed to do this Agni Karya. Of course, nowadays nobody does Agni Karya. If you do Sandhya Vandana, that itself is a great thing. Sandhya Vandana and Devata Archana, these two things, if you do these things, that is a great thing. Leave alone Agni Karya. Then this pratyavaya, that is negative fallout, coming back to that negative fallout, that applies only to the other ashramas but not to sannyasis. So that is what is Shankaracharya's reply. Asanyasi vishayatvat pratyavaya praptehe. This pratyavaya prapti is asanyasi vishaya. Pratyavaya prapti means that attainment of this pratyavaya, that negative fallout, is, this is something which relates to asanyasi vishaya means that relates to, this is a vishaya or subject for 3 minutes only. Asanyasi vishaya means this relates to, or this pertains to, or this is applicable only to an asanyasi. Is it clear? Then nahi agnikaryadyakaranat sanyasinah pratyavayah kalpayitum shakyah yatha brahmacharinam asanyasinam api karminam. Okay, nahi agnikaryaadi akarana sanyasinah pratyavayah kalpayitum shakyah. So, what are these compulsory things which you are talking about? Agni Karya, etc. So, we are supposed to have this Garhapatya Agni, this Agni, the Agni, Dakshina Agni. I don't immediately recall. There are these Agnis which are there, which are maintained. I have seen some people in particularly Krishna, Guntur districts, even now, there are some people who are Nitya Agnihotris. If you go into their house, there is a small room where this Agnihotra is there. Nitya, that is Dakshina Agni, Garhapatya Agni, and all that, those types of yajnas are there. All those Agnis are there. So there are very few people even now who are following that. At least for the sake of knowing what it is, we can go and see. We may not do, but then at least to know what it was, at least to understand our tradition, we have to see those people and we have to respect them. So anyway, this nahi agnikaryaadi akaranat sanyasinah pratyavaya kalpitum shakyah. Agnikaryaadi is only referring to one portion of this nitya karma. Nitya karma involves 3 things, that is Sandhya Vandana, Devata Archana, Agni Karyam, and all these things are nitya karmas. So this agnikaryaadi, by using the word adi, is also including all that, not one only. Agnikaryaadi akaranat sanyasinah pratyavayah na kalpayitum shakyah. That is, you cannot visualize. Na kalpayitum shakyah means you cannot visualize. Kalpana is visualizing. You can't assume. You can't assume or you can't visualize this negative fallout in the case of a sannyasi for not doing this agnikarya, etc. You follow this line? Shakyah yatha Brahma, no, we read this. Yatha brahmacharinam asanyasinam api karminam. Yatha brahmacharinam means you can imagine so in the case of a brahmachari, just as you do in the case of a brahmachari, or in the case of asanyasinam api karminam, as you imagine in the case of a karmi who is not a sannyasi. You can imagine so, or you can assume, or you can visualize all that negative fallout in the case of a brahmachari. You can also assume in the case of a karmi who is not a sannyasi. Just as you imagine, just like you imagine this pratyavaya in the case of others, you can't imagine in the case of, you can't visualize, or you can assume, you can't presume in the case of a sannyasi. So that is what he is saying. Should we stop or shall we? Next line. Okay. This is bhava, abhava. This is a slightly different subject. We will explain and then I will explain in the next class. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.